First and foremost, I truly think that we're created as human beings to live our lives in community.
Welcome to Leaders of the West, a podcast for innovators and changemakers. I'm your host, Jessie Jarvis, the founder of the West, and I'm sitting down with agriculturalists, entrepreneurs, executives, and everyone in between with the goal of digging into the strategies, mindsets, and lessons that have been crucial to the success of ag and Western. Whether you're carrying on the next generation of your family's operation, starting something from scratch, or determined to climb up the leadership ladder, we're going to inspire you to continue to dream big, growing not just you, but the future of agriculture and Western as a whole. Let's go.
FYI, did you know that Of the West offers free resources to help you in the job hunting and the hiring game? For all of you job seekers, these would be things like how to prepare for a job interview, tips and tricks to make sure your resume is top-notch, how to make the most of an internship, different career options that you can consider in the ag and Western industries, or even strategies behind how to transition from one career to the next. For those of you who are employers, we have articles on ideas of questions that you can ask in your job interviews, how to cultivate a really strong company culture, reminders on what questions are illegal to ask an applicant, strategies for how to determine if a hybrid or remote work schedule would work best for your team, and so many more. You can find all of those and everything else we have for free resources at ofthewest.co. Once you're there, click on resources and you're off to the races. And as always, if you're looking for something specific but you can't find it, let us know and we can either help you find it or we can add it to our list of things to create in the future. Once again, that's ofthewest.co. Once you're there, click on resources and you'll find all of that and so much more. Oh, you guys, we have an awesome episode lined up today. We are sitting down with the creator of Cowgirls Cocktails, Lexi Hoagland. If you are a woman in the industry, I know you've heard of this event. And if you're not a woman in the industry, chances are you've still heard of this event. I will tell you that two of my male friends were talking about networking in agriculture, and one of them said to the other, I wish there was something like Cowgirls Cocktails, but it was for men. So, whether you are a man or a woman, this is an episode you guys are going to love today. Lexi really is just so inspiring, and she is going to obviously tell you her story, and I don't want to take too much away from that, but she is somebody who in the last 5 years has came from outside of the industry. She was not born in agriculture or Western, and not only has she carved out such a space for herself and made such a name for herself, but she has made so many connections in the industry that if you didn't know that, if I hadn't told you that, you would have never guessed that she was not born in the agriculture or Western industry. So I think this is a great episode for those of you who love Western and you love agriculture, but you did not come from our industry and you are feeling left out. There is more than enough room for you here. Lexi proves that. And for those of us who are natives, if you will, to the industry, Lexi is so inspiring in the sense that she has just gotten in here and gotten her hands dirty and proved to herself that she is meant to be here. And I think that that is also such a great reminder of how we need more people like Lexi. And we have to be willing to welcome people with open arms into our industry because that is the only way that we will continue to grow. But she really is the coolest. We have lots of laughs. And I am so beyond excited to share with you guys today, Miss Lexi Hoagland. Okay, Lexi, I feel like every woman in the ag and Western space probably knows who you are because of what you've created. But if by chance somebody isn't as familiar with you, can you give us a quick little FYI of who you are, where you're at, how you got into the Western industry? Because you didn't necessarily come from the Western industry. You were not raised in the industry. And that has really allowed you the stepping stone for what you've created in your career. So I'm excited to get to share that with people, but we want to hear it from you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me. My name is Lexi Hoagland. I am from Denver, Colorado, and I love to tell people I am a triplet. I grew up with two brothers. I did not grow up in our industry. I will say my dad has a background in Western and agriculture. He did grow up farming and ranching. He rode bulls, and I would say it was innately inside of his spirit that he passed on to us. But for my lifestyle in general, we did not grow up farming or ranching or in 4-H. It was very much, very opposite. It was very in the suburbs of Colorado. And so growing up, we were told that if we went to a private Christian school, my parents would pay for our university. And I felt very blessed by that. And we ended up in Harding University over in Searcy, Arkansas, all three of us. And I truly just fell in love with the South, knew I wanted to stay in the South. I had no desire to go back to Colorado. It is beautiful, but I was ready to get on and do something different and see a little bit more of the world. And so went through Harding University with my brothers, and we loved it. I felt like everyone always associated us as the Hoaglands and never just Hunter, Colby, or Lexi. And although I loved that, I was definitely ready to go off and do my own thing. And so when I graduated, I felt like I had a relatively decent resume that was entry level for me to get my first job. And it was preached to us at our university that if you had the perfect resume and everything looked right, that you would land a job. And I applied to probably over 50 jobs blindly, and every email I got was a rejection letter. And so I felt very discouraged when I was graduating. And what I felt like my plan needed to be was, for some reason, I felt called that I needed to move to Nashville. And so I told my parents, I'm tired of getting rejection letters. I want people to meet me. I feel like if I can sit down with them and pick their brain and show them how interested I am in these roles, then maybe they will hire me. And so I actually moved over to Nashville for 7 weeks and networked like nobody's business. I was messaging anybody and everybody on LinkedIn, hoping that they would get back to me. And I met with a lot of really great, powerful people over in Nashville. And so I had 2 full-time offers verbally offered to me, the Tennessee Titans and then Bridgestone, the tire company. And I had actually a part-time position offered to me with the Country Music Association during CMA Fest. And I knew that CMA Fest was only going to be about 4 or 5 days of my role. And so right after I went and did CMA Fest, loved it. I loved Nashville. I loved the lights. I loved the country music. I loved the people. And it was the highest of highs in Nashville. And I'm like, certainly I have to be here. If one of these roles are going to work out for me, I really think that this is going to be my forever home. And it was 2 days after CMA Fest, and God had other plans. And both of my roles fell through on the exact same day, my full-time roles. And I was heartbroken. I was distraught. I will never forget leaving a meeting with one of those companies after they told me they weren't ready to hire and crying on the phone to my dad. Why don't these things work out for me? I don't know what I'm going to be doing next. And I remember very vividly my senior year of high school having a plan and a prayer truly to God of I just want you to place me where I'm going to be happy. And sure enough, lo and behold, I had a random role offered in Dallas, Texas with a construction company, which is complete opposite of what I thought my plan needed to be, and ended up moving to Dallas because my parents were like, it is time for you to get a job. Now that you're graduated, just take the job. And so Dallas was my far second option after Nashville. And like I said, 7 weeks later, I ended up moving to Dallas, Texas. And God had worked and he still does, so abundantly in my life. When I moved to Dallas, I automatically picked a random apartment and happened to know 4 people before I even moved in that were my neighbors. And I worked on the construction company, which was a general contractor. And I was on the back end of business development and sales. I was a client coordinator for them. And as much as I love to joke about my time in construction, I would say it's probably the best thing I ever did in my career. Truly, they taught me so much about the power of networking and getting involved. I love to tell people, and it's true, I caused an absolute scene on job sites. I wore a pink coat and Dolly Parton stickers on my hard hat. Like, I was not there taking it as serious as I should, but I learned so much about networking. But being in Dallas, I was falling in love very, slowly but surely with Fort Worth. And I wish I had a better story, but I was falling in love with the romance of the Western industry. And to me, the morals and the values of this industry felt exactly like how my parents had raised me because it was instilled in my dad and my mom growing up, even though Western was never our lifestyle. And so COVID happened. My job was secure at the construction company, but I wanted to take a leap of faith and see what was going on over in the Western world. And Yellowstone had just become a big thing. And I'm like, there's something deeper here. This isn't just a fad. This isn't just a love for our industry. There is true purpose and meaning in the Western world. And so I ran back to LinkedIn and I messaged anybody and everybody that I wanted to talk to and would just ask them for 15 to 30 minutes of their time to either get on a phone call or take them to lunch. And I wanted to know what it meant to be a part of the Western industry. And so I had multiple of those calls, all of who are still mentors and great friends today. And it was actually Jeff Jones, who I think really went on a limb for me from Twisted X. He goes, you know what? After a call, he goes, you know what? I really like you. I don't have a job for you, but I think my friends over at NRS would. And so ended up at NRS. They took a leap. I was their director of sponsorships for almost 2 years and worked with a lot of brands. And then now I am at Lane Boots. So, and I'm on the sales and marketing side with them.
Oh, there is so much to unpack here. Okay, first things first, we have to ask, growing up in Denver, being in Texas now, do you miss the cold?
I think it's colder in the South and people don't believe me. But I think it's the hottest and coldest I've ever been has been in the South. And it's the humidity. It is so biting. I am running into places. But if it's 40 degrees and sunny in Colorado, it's a beautiful day to wear a sweater. But here, it's so cold.
And I will also say, like, what is it about January in Denver? It is warm. It is like 50 degrees and sunny.
Yeah.
It boggles my mind. I don't understand how that's possible. Okay. Next thing that I want to mention, you said that you worked in construction in 2020 during COVID. Your job was secure. Mm-hmm. It is now 2025. You have only been in the Western industry for 5 years now, probably less than 5 years. And look at what you have created. You obviously mentioned working for NRS and Lane, but you have created something really special of your own called Cowgirls and Cocktails, which you describe as a social club that is dedicated to building a longer table for women in Western and agriculture. Mm-hmm. For those who maybe have not heard of Cowgirls and Cocktails, can you give us a brief explanation of what exactly that is?
Yeah, absolutely. So being in construction and on the side of business development and sales, I feel like I was at a new function or learning opportunity, or there were so many organizations available for young people to be able to network. And you could go and learn about the state of the market and what was coming up in the next 5 or 10 years. And it was truly informative and educational, or there were happy hours for young people. And so when I started at National Roper Supply and just truly had this eagerness to learn, I remember asking my boss if there was anything like that in our industry. And he said no. And so I felt like there was a need in a sense of community in our industry. And I was terrified. But I just started a Facebook page one day. And the whole goal of Cowgirls and Cocktails is to gather women monthly with very different events that aren't always Western focused. I want to provide a place where people feel like they do belong and they do have a place in our industry. And it doesn't matter if you are a 5th generation rancher or if you're a 5th day interested person in Western. I want people to feel like they have a place that they can belong and that they can come and learn. And so I host monthly events and I kind of lean on 3 different pillars with education, happy hours, and trying to support small businesses in our area.
I don't even know where to start because you definitely gave the explanation exactly how I asked, what is Cowgirls and Cocktails? But it is so much cooler than how you just described it. Like, you have started this thing and now, I mean, women of all walks of life, some of the most powerful women in the Western industry are attending your events month after month after month. Like, it's not just I went and did it once. Like, they continually come back for more, which tells me just how successful it has been. So let's backtrack a little bit today, because this is really what I want to dig into. You and I first met each other back when you worked for NRS. And as you mentioned, you were their partnership and sponsor manager at the time. At that time, Cowgirls and Cocktails wasn't even a thing, correct?
That is correct. Yeah. NRS does such an amazing job about talking to the core customer. And I love that. And I love learning about that. However, I had a really hard time relating to it because I'm not core. That was not something that was provided to me, but I did have an eagerness for community in our industry and just wanting to be involved. I feel like I've had the mindset of just wanting to be a sponge and soaking in any information that I can get just to learn and grow our industry. And so it's kind of funny. Cowgirls and Cocktails really did start because I saw a lot of women in our industry hanging out and I wondered how I could meet them. And it's sad, but I really had FOMO of like, why are they hanging out and why aren't they asking me to go? And I wanted to really just find a place where I'd be able to meet them. And so Cowgirls and Cocktails kind of came up just because we needed a sense of community in our industry and especially for women. And so, like I said earlier, I was terrified to start something like this of what, our core customer would say about an industry outsider starting something like this. That's a big deal. And people can really look down on that. Like, who is she? What does she know? Where is she coming from? And I really did. I sat on the idea for about 9 months before I finally pulled the trigger on it. And I remember it was a Sunday afternoon. I started the Facebook page and I invited my friends. And at the first event, I feel like I begged all of my friends to come. And I feel like it was incredibly awkward. But we had about 11 people come and those women continue to show up to these events. And like you said, some women who I consider are absolute legends and powerhouses are showing up and they're loving the event. And I just, more than anything, I feel very humbled and I feel very honored that this has been something that's not great just for me, but just great for a sense of community for so many women in our industry.
Oh, absolutely. So you have hosted a number of events since that initial one where 11 people showed up. And I want to get to all of those because they really are the highest of highs, including you just got done hosting one last night. But thinking back to that very first event with all 11 women in that room, what was it like? Where did you host it? Because they've basically turned into like monthly parties. I mean, you leave no stone unturned when it comes to thinking of fun, exciting things for you can grab your girlfriends and come and mix and mingle and, have like an activity or an experience of some kind. So what did that first one look like?
The first one was held at Side Saddle Saloon in the Fort Worth Stockyards off of Mule Alley. And we truly sat around a table. And I think a lot of the girls were probably questioning, why are we here? Lexi has this idea and she's asked us to come, but what does this really mean? And to be honest, I didn't think that it would take off the way that it did. But to me, it was very weird, but we stayed persistent and it's continued to grow and women have continued to show up. But I do attribute the growth of the group truly to the women who come. Yes, I am the one who typically thinks of the ideas, but I have no paid marketing behind my group at all. It's all word of mouth. It's all the women who are talking about these events or who they've met or what has come from it. And so the growth of the group has really come from the women who are able to participate. And I'm so thankful for that.
So leaving that very first event, people were still a little unsure, or you at least felt that they were unsure. You had gone to Side Saddle, basically like a bar.
Mm-hmm.
What then made you realize like, okay, I need to do this again? Or like, we got to do this again next month? Or like, oh, we could go do this. Like, what did that initial event give you to then brainstorm for future things?
The women did say it was fun, so I ran with that. And I said, okay, well, we started off with fun, so maybe we just, keep our head down and do it again. And honestly, I couldn't tell you what our second or third event really even was. But I think when it actually, I just knew I needed to stay persistent. I knew that it was a need. I didn't see it happening anywhere else. And whether 5, 10, or 100 people showed up, I knew it was needed somewhere. And it could have been either just for myself or maybe there was someone in the group who was going to be able to show up and that's what they needed in their day. But I think for me, it took a year and a half for it to really come to fruition, where I took a step back and I was like, this is actually something that we need to pursue a little bit deeper. And that one was actually at the Kimpton Harper Hotel. And I think I probably had 60 people show up. And it was just an overwhelming response from the women just coming up and saying how much fun they had and the people that they were able to meet. And so, but it's also really neat too. The mindset that these women have when they come into the event is very special. And everyone knows that they are there to make new connections. And it's really cool because there's younger women who get to mix with the older generations of women. And it's totally known within each of those women that they're able to be approached and that they can also go and approach someone else. And I love that. And that's really cool. That's really special.
So you're saying that that first group of women, they basically gave you an inch by saying, hey, we had fun, and you took a mile in, well, it was a positive response, so we've got to keep doing it. But I also want to call out the fact that you said it took you about a year and a half before you stood back and thought like, holy cow, I finally have something here. And I think that that is so important because I know that any other business owner would say that same thing. And I will say it with Of the West. Like, you have to continue to put in effort to something if you want to see it flourish, even when you don't necessarily see it flourishing. Like, it is no different than farming. You have to sow your seed into the ground. And even when you don't see that seed rise above the soil, you still have to keep watering it and fertilizing it because at some point it is going to pop through the soil. It might just take a while, but that's like everything in life has that period of, I don't necessarily know that this is going to work or not, but you still have to make that investment of, time, money, effort, whatever it may be, to really see things into the future. Like, nothing has ever become successful in that one-hit wonder scenario.
No. Yeah, it's definitely been a labor of love, and it has taken some time, and never did I expect that it would be here almost 3 years later, but it's definitely taken some time, like you were saying.
So speaking of 3 years later, back in December during NFR, you hosted a tea party event in partnership with Virgin Hotel. So tell me about that.
That was the most honoring experience of my life. And I remember I got up on the stage just to talk about Cowgirls and Cocktails and tell people a little bit about who we are and why we were there. And I got emotional. I got choked up. And I think at an event, that was the first time where I was like, wow, I can't believe I'm in Vegas. I can't believe I'm at the NFR. And honestly, I should not have been at the NFR for Cowgirls and Cocktails this past year. And few things on that event. I unfortunately went through a relationship this past year that told me I wasn't allowed to be at the NFR. And so for me to stand on stage and see all these women show up, and it's beneficial for the group and for them, it just, God was working in that way. And then also Shaylee Ham, West Desperado, and Anna Kuniko really went out on a limb for me and with their connections at the Virgin. And they were the ones who threw my name in the hat and said, this is needed in our industry. We don't have anything like this at the NFR. We need someone to step up and host a networking event. And Lexi's the one to do it. And so to know that those powerhouse of women threw my name in a hat for me was so kind of them and so sweet. And it was just an honor to be able to bring Cowgirls and Cocktails not only to the DFW area, but then to Vegas and at the NFR. And so I was so happy. I, again, still so honored, and they want to do it again next year. So
well, maybe you heard it here first, folks. If you haven't been to an event yet, put it on your calendar for sometime in December at the Virgin Hotel during NFR. How exciting.
So we had a blast, and a cowgirl tea party. It was a hit.
I know. I was bummed that I had to miss it. I miss all the fun stuff. Justin and I, we were actually driving down to Vegas that day. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend, but I have attended an event in the past held during Market that you held in tandem or together with Mamie McKee and Tucker Brown. And that was an amazing event. But it is so cool just to see the amount of people who show up, the difference in the variety of people who show up. Because you said it earlier, like it is everybody who fifth generation cowgirls to fifth day in the Western industry to absolute powerhouses within our industry. Like some of the women who own the most successful businesses within the Western lifestyle industry. I mean, it is anyone and everybody. So from that, give us some of the most like memorable experiences or connections that you have heard that have came from your events. Do you have any examples of like, holy cow, I can't believe that I created the place for that?
Yeah, I would say Vegas was number one, where that was very surreal. One of my favorite events to date was a speed networking event, which is just like it sounds, like speed dating, but speed networking. And each of the women got to literally leave that event with, I think, 12 different contacts, which included name, numbers, and emails. And I thought that one was really great just because it was a little bit more personal and intentional of if you were there just looking for a friend, go talk and go find a friend. Or if you were there and you're truly looking for a job, then I hoped that you were going out on a limb and asking for who they may know or how they can get involved. I would say experience-wise, some of my things is just seeing the women being able to connect and kind of touching on some of that just a minute ago, but with the mentorship aspect or the friendships that have been able to be made, or even the success stories when it comes to finding a job at one of my events. That's really cool to hear about. And I wish I could be a fly on the wall in every conversation at my events, but it's really special when I'm able to hear about the things that do go on.
No, and I will say, speaking from the same experience when it comes to Of the West, like it doesn't matter if it was the very first time that I heard that or if I hear it again tomorrow and it's the 100th time I've heard that, of when somebody is able to like meet a meaningful connection or land a job or find the employee that has like transformed their business in some way and taken stress off of their plate. Like that really is just the coolest feeling. So I know what you mean by that. And I think that we all have those types of situations and that meaningfulness in our life. Okay, I've got one more question and then we are going to get to the rapid fire round. But let's talk about the idea of building a longer table. Mm-hmm. There are people who are all for it. And there are people who believe that somebody else's light is going to dim their own. We all know those. They're just not necessarily supportive people, whether it's like supportive women or supportive men. Like not everybody is hardwired to be that way. Yeah. And I hope, if anything, if somebody who is listening to this and maybe they do have those like feelings of jealousy towards other people or the feeling that they are not enough or they compare themselves to others. And because of that, they have negative self-talk, like whatever it may be. And I will also say we are all that way to some degree, I think.
Yeah.
But I just want them to see and realize and hear that you can create meaningful connections and you can be supportive of other people in the industry. And, you know, helping others and their light shine is not going to dim your own. It is only going to make yours shine brighter. Mm-hmm. What have you learned from supporting others in life? And maybe the kind of the alternative of that of like, what have you seen in situations where people haven't supported others?
First and foremost, I truly think that we're created as human beings to live our lives in community. We hear it so much as we're growing up that, you know, we're better as a team. And I firmly do believe that. I actually just this last week went to a church service over here in Keller that touched on the importance of mentorship and maximizing mentorship and discipleship and how growth equals happiness. And it was actually presented by John Maxwell, who is a author on different books for leadership. And he goes to different corporate companies and helps out with their culture and talks to them about leadership. And I just felt like I was a sponge that entire service and just writing notes. And so he touched on a few different things about it and how to say maybe get into the mindset of mentorship and what that looks like to either be a mentor or a mentee. But starting off that you have to be intentional and grow and develop yourself. But one of the things that he talked about, and I think I learned very early on in my career too, is you have to be super eager. And that looks like asking someone to go to lunch and not just hoping that they talk about themselves, but truly expressing an interest of, like, well, where are you at right now? Or it could be on totally different sides, whether you're a mentor or a mentee, but coming to those lunches with at least 7 questions that you want them to answer and showing that you're ready to learn and be prepared. But also valuing the process of discipleship and mentoring. And you're not supposed to ask how long it will take. Instead, you're supposed to ask, how far can I go and how far can I grow? And I thought that was very impactful. The next thing that he had also talked about was to determine the areas in your life that you want to grow and develop. And that could either be on the sense of maybe you are looking for a mentor. Well, what are you looking for a mentor for? Are you looking for them to motivate you, or are you looking for them to truly help you set goals and actions and hold you accountable? But also, if you're looking to mentor a mentee, what knowledge are you willing to pass along and be able to grow that next generation and look at it from a standpoint of the knowledge that I know is only going to further our industry and continue to grow. The next one is that you just have to be hungry and you have to go and know that all of the great leaders that came before us, in order to they did something to get there. And then the last one I would say to get into that mindset was just pray about it and ask God to lead you where you are supposed to be called.
Oh, well, and I think too, like a rising tide lifts all ships. I know that is not the first time I've said that on this podcast, and it will definitely not be the last. I firmly believe that when we support others, we are then indirectly supporting ourselves in that same way. Like, I've never truly seen somebody who is happy and who is successful and respected who doesn't support others. Like, if you want to be that lone island or lone wolf or whatever you want to call it, that's great. But there's no community. It's often lonely. Like, you're not going to get as far to be as successful or whatever it is that you're achieving to be or striving to be if you do it by yourself versus when you do it with community and you're supporting other people. And I think too, you mentioned earlier in the show about how the only reason that you were able to host that tea party in Vegas during the NFR in partnership with a Virgin is because Shaylee and Anna had said your name in a room that you weren't even in. And so I think of how many opportunities that I myself have had in that exact same situation of people who have, shared my name or my contact or whatever it was when I wasn't present, partly because I've proven that I am good at whatever, the topic was at hand, but also because I am supportive. Like, they know that I am willing and have done in the past the same thing that they are doing for me. And so I just think that is a really important thing. I think too, there are women that I've totally been jealous of, right? And that's not on them, that's on me. Like, I've got to figure that out within myself and, to like, well, how can I support them? Or how can I, if I'm jealous of what they have, like, how can I, use them as a resource and like, they're doing something really right. How can I learn from that? And I think that by being able to recognize that of like, just that mindset change, if you will, that has also got me really, really far.
Yes, I love
this
that.
is your podcast, not mine. I feel like I'm kind of monopolizing the conversation here.
No, I'm like, preach, Jesse, preach.
Oh, okay. Let's hit the rapid fire round. What is the best piece of business or personal advice that you have ever been given?
So the first one that I thought of actually came from your podcast and my friend Carly Peterson, and that NO stands for new opportunities. I had never heard of it like that before. And I thought, like, wow, how simple yet profound at the same time. And you can take it in so many different directions. And I thought on that for a year. I actually looked back at your podcast today and I was like, oh my gosh, that was a year ago. I actually didn't know Carly then. And now I know Carly now. And I thought that was awesome. And I'm like, love that.
I have to agree because I guess naively had never heard of that either. And it has touched me so much. I actually have it printed out and it's in my office. Like,
I love it.
NO stands for new options. Hell yes. Thank you, Carly Peterson.
Then also, I would say, like, more personally, one of the things I'm super passionate about, I would say, is the next generation, especially those who are about to graduate. And it is a verse. It's 1 Timothy 4:12. And don't let anyone look down on you because you are young. Instead, set an example in speech, faith, conduct, and purity. I love that verse so much just because I think young people tend to play it small. and think that they don't have a place. And I just want to encourage them that you have to keep going.
Ooh, love that. If you could give people any words of wisdom and you knew that they would take them to heart, what would it be?
Let's see. I would say be quick to listen. I think a lot of us are some of the best things that you can do for yourself in a room full of people is be the first one to listen. And you can learn so much just from observing and letting someone else talk. And then also just don't play your life small and shoot big. Go after it. You have to be your own trailblazer, set your own rules, and work hard.
Ooh, yes. Okay. If you could go to dinner with anybody, dead or alive, who would you pick?
Dolly Parton.
I almost knew you were going to say that because I was like, I wonder if she's going to say Dolly Parton based on the stickers on her hard hat.
Absolutely. I think Dolly is the best. Like what I would give to have my feet under the same table as Dolly. I could be on the other end. But in the physical presence of Dolly, it's happened twice. I'm nearly brought to tears. Not dinner, but she's been in the same concert venue. I would lose my ever-loving mind if I could have dinner with Dolly. So,
you and Lindsay Branquino both gave her as an answer. So Dolly Parton is a common answer here, as is Mike Rowe and Jesus.
Jesus, yes.
All understandable figures, right? But I feel like, can you imagine the dinner party that would be Mike Rowe, Dolly Parton, and Jesus? Please.
Oh my God.
Sign me up at that table.
Yes. Wow. I love that.
Okay. What's a quote that you lead your life by?
What's the worst that can happen? Kind of along the lines of Carly of no stands for new opportunities. For me, what's the worst that could happen is, someone could say no to a raise that you were looking for, or someone could do the opposite of what you were thinking, but at least you tried. It could also lean to you did get that raise because you asked for it, or you did find the job because you went seeking for it. And that's probably my number one. But then I would say this past year would be a actual verse from Esther that I've reminded myself over constantly being that you were created for a time such as this. And you have purpose. God has equipped you and you are meant to be here.
Ooh, I was not expecting bad answers by any means, but these are amazing answers. I love this. This is why I love the rapid fire round. Okay, very last question for you. Let's talk about favorite things aside from Lane boots, because I know that is one of your favorite things. But do you have a favorite, like a book, podcast, program, maybe a product, service, something that's changed your life that you just want to pimp out, that you want more people to know about?
Yes. So walking for years has been my go-to to really set and refresh myself. And it really helps me spark new ideas when I'm able to get outside and move my body. Therapy has been great. I love therapy. I love being able to talk to someone and get their insight and their opinions. And it's completely unbiased. And I feel very motivated after those sessions. For a service, Newly has been one of the best things I've been able to do for the work that I am in. And it has saved me so much money. I really pride myself in wanting to feel confident in what I am wearing, say at different events or happy hours or even going to church. And Newly has saved me so much money and I still feel on trend and I get a new wardrobe every month. So if you haven't looked up Newly, it's Nuuly. You get 6 items for $100 a month and then you ship them back and you get another 6 items of your choice. And I love it. So
we had met before through NRS, but we had never met in person until Market, maybe a couple of years ago. And you had parked next to the group that I was with. And you were in this dress and we thought, oh my gosh, look at that girl. She is so cute. Like we all said this to ourselves. We walk into Dallas Market Center and then maybe an hour later, somebody introduces you and I. Oh no, we went to lunch.
We went to lunch that day.
Yeah, you had reached out and we were going to lunch. And so I sat down with you at lunch and I was like, oh my gosh, this is the girl that parked next to us in the cute dress.
That one was actually from Bloomingdale's outlet. I am a bargain shopper, and I think that's why I love Newly so much is because they are full price items, say from Anthropologie, but I'm still getting 6 items for $100. To put it into perspective, one of my months of clothes one time valued at over $3,000 and I got it for $100 that month. Like, that is amazing. So if you're a business girly or you like to also wear new clothes, Nuuly is your go-to. It's so much better than Rent the Runway or Fashion Pass. I love it.
Okay. Well, I love that. We'll definitely include a link to Nuuly for those of you who need that in the show notes. Lexi, thank you so much. This has been awesome. Real quick question for looking ahead to, what is this, like February, March, April, May?
Yes.
When are some of your events? Do you have anything planned? If somebody is maybe going to be in Fort Worth, Dallas, and they want to come hit up an event?
Yes. So February 13th, we are hosting a Galentine's event at the Kimpton Harper Hotel in downtown Fort Worth. Actually, all of March, I will be living in Houston for the Houston Rodeo. And so ideally, I would like to take Cowgirls and Cocktails to Houston. So if you are in Houston, hopefully we can host an event there, TBD. And then I would say early spring, this one's really cool, but I need to hold myself accountable. So we're putting it out there. I want to do a closet clean out where everyone brings their closets. And I want to shop from other women's closets, and we can trade clothes and Western jewelry. And, you can go and figure out what you're looking for this upcoming season and shop from your girlfriends. And so I think that will be a really, really, really fun opportunity.
Oh my gosh, that is genius. I love it. You let me know when that is because I might have to book a flight.
Okay.
To come to an event. But Lexi, thank you so much for today. You guys, we'll make sure to include all of the information in the show notes as always so that you guys can go follow Lexi as well as Cowgirls and Cocktails. We'll make sure to include that schedule for you in case you are able to hit an event. Lexi, this has been awesome. You are such a light, and there are so many people in the world who are so lucky to have you in it. And thank you for allowing me to get to share you with our listeners today. You guys, you always know that you can catch us back here next week with a brand new episode of Leaders of the West. Until then, I'm your host, Jessie Jarvis. This is Lexi Hoagland, and we will see you later.
If you loved this episode, do us a favor and share it with someone else who might find just as much value in it as you did. We're on a mission to continue to grow and strengthen the future of agriculture and Western industries, and you spreading the word helps us make more of a positive impact. It also makes a big difference when you take a minute to go rate and review the show. We can't thank you enough for listening, for sharing, and for loving Ag and Western as much as we do. We'll see you back here for our next episode.